everyone. Hello and good night. It is 7:49, so I'm rather late, sadly, but rather late than ever. So I worked last night and had to take my nap, had to do my other things, did a little business work earlier, so I'm a little late, but again, I'm still here. Okay, so we're going to do our lesson today. We are still on lesson 11, Fishers of Men. And today is Monday, September 7th. Labor Day for most, but we don't really, what is Labor Day about anyway? Like, why do they call it Labor Day? But anyway, I think, I don't know. I need to research that. You guys know why do we celebrate Labor Day? Does it have anything to do with actual labor? Work? I feel like it does, and that's why people take a rest from labor. But where did it start, and who started it? I don't know. I'm gonna find out, and I'm gonna come back and let y'all know, because I like to know these things. But anyway, so the whole day yesterday, as I was on my way to work, I saw so many people out on the street, and they were on their sidewalk having little get-togethers, and I'm like, these people, man, you can't stop them. They can't do the carnival thing, but they gonna get together. And I think there was a little bit of drinking too, so I was just like, wow, people, relax. Like, 1 year can go by and y'all not celebrate Labor Day. Okay. But, it was nice to see them trying to socialize and get together. But the social distancing was not really observed very well. People didn't have masks on. So if you hear about a surge of corona in New York City, it's because of Brooklyn. And the Labor Day parade, even though it didn't happen, people were trying to do something. I don't know what they were doing. But anyway, so I'm here. We're going to do Sabbath school. And we are on Monday, September 7th. So let's just start with that and just leave Labor Day and the shenanigans that people tend to do alone. Okay, so here we go. Let's pray first. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to have the opportunity to do our lessons and to learn something new or reinforce something we have already learned in the past. Help us to add whatever it is that we're going to learn into our lives so that we can improve and get better at this Christian walk, so that we can grow closer to you and make it to heaven. But as we get closer to you and towards the journey, making it to heaven, help us to bring someone along. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. So though Christian discipleship may occur in other denominations, discipleship in the Adventist context differs slightly. First, the context of the last days must be taken into consideration. The theological term would be eschatological discipleship, where eschaton refers to the last days. Not that disciples in the last days are better or holier than those before them, but Adventist discipleship must reflect the unique mission and message of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. As simplistic as it may sound, this may not always be obvious. The distinctive message entrusted by God to his remnant church and firmly established in the Bible is the foundation of faith and practice for so-called eschatological disciples. Okay, so for some reason, when I read this, the first thing that comes to mind is like the latter rain, right? That and the fact that a lot of people who are in the church are going to leave the church, right? So this idea about the end time message, obviously a lot of our own people in any church that you attend, and we've read this last week when we saw that there's like a kind of an ecclesiastic thing happening in our church where everybody's leaving the church. So this makes me think of the idea, how well are we preaching about the last days? Or how well do we understand it? I feel like we don't even understand it enough. And that's why a lot of us are deciding to leave. If we truly believe that we were in the last days, wouldn't we be getting our acts together, getting our, acts together? I just said that. just we would try to be holier, right? We would try to adhere to God's rules and regulations more, do the right things more. Like I find that a lot of young people, older people are just giving up. Like rather than get closer to God, I mean, I hear them saying it, that they're getting closer to God, but I don't see it happening. And I sometimes wonder, like, even with the corona, right, that's happening, and we're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. Or the time going by so quickly. Okay, because like, if you're in a cocoon and you don't watch news, like I don't watch news, okay? I don't watch TV, so I don't really know things that are happening out there, like on a grand scale, right? Like what the Pope is doing, like what wars are being won or fought. But I'm trying to see why it is that a person would feel that they don't care whether or not God comes or not, or that they wouldn't prepare their life for God. So, because even though I don't watch television, I see that time is going by so quickly, right? Even though I'm not aware of the wars out there, and I might not hear about their hurricanes or their, you know those things that God says, you will know that I'm nearing when you see these things, right? So, but even though I don't see that, there's still something in my heart that tells me when I'm doing something wrong, right? When I'm pleasing self over God. So that I still don't understand why people are choosing to leave the church and to follow self rather than God. I understand that, like, we want a good life, right? We want to be happy. We want to feel comfortable. We want to do what we want to do, because that's what human beings are about, right? We like preserve self, right? We feed self. Like even babies, they tell you like their first instinct is selfish, right? They want to be fed, they want to be changed, they take care of me. So I get that, but the fact that God still wrote his laws in our hearts is what is that's to me the disconnect. Like you still know when you're doing something wrong, and you still should be in tune with the fact that, okay, God has a certain rules and regulations. So I guess, and I'm not talking, I was going to say that I guess I understand like people who are outside the church, because like if you were brought up in a family where they took drugs, or they listened to certain music, or they stole, or they, were promiscuous, or they cursed, like if you grew up in that culture, I get it. You wouldn't know any differently. Even though the laws are written in your heart, they might be a little clouded, a little hazy, and you just like, I don't know what's right, I don't know what's wrong. But if you were brought up in the church, I don't see it. So you guys might have to tell me why it is that people feel I prefer to dress this way, to talk this way, to do. I'm trying to understand. And I see people who do that, people who are doing the wrong thing, and they claim that they're fervent Christians. Do they really realize that they're doing the wrong thing and they don't care? Or do they think that they have time enough to change? Is it because that God continues to bless them anyway, right? Like, if something was to happen to them, would they then change and see the need to do things differently? I don't know, guys. I really am trying to understand why it is I, Nicolette Piobert, when I do something that is Chanel, that is of the flesh, I'm tormented by it. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, I did that. Or I think like, what would people think? And what people say? And what would God say? And how does God see this? Example. So I love music. I love Christian music. Okay. And I was listening to a pastor, I forget his name, but he was on there and he mentioned how he thinks that Christian rap is wrong. But I like Christian rap. Well, some of them anyway. Because it's upbeat and because it's lively, and sometimes depending on the mood that I'm in, I like to listen to it. But I also like, mellow Christian music as well. So then when I listen to it, I'm like, am I sinning? And it bothers me that I like it. And then I think to myself, if it's a sin, is it that it's a sin and that I don't feel that it's a sin and then there's something wrong with me? Or, right? My point is, like, I question these things and I try to find different ways that I can become holier and do better and improve my Christian walk by what I listen to, what I watch. So there was a time where I didn't watch certain movies because they had certain like excerpts of different, if it's sensuality or whatever. Like I literally went to Netflix and then I put my age, I changed my age, or well, I don't know what I did, but no, I think I put the code thing so that if it's rated R, then I couldn't watch it, right? Because I felt like if I saw these things, then I was corrupting my mind, that kind of thing. So my point is, okay, like I literally try to perfect my life every day, every time. I do revert back. Like it was for a time. And then when I felt like it didn't affect my Christian walk as much and I reverted back to it, I still watch violent movies sometimes. And then I think to myself, is that like the Christian way? Should I not watch that? And then sometimes I justify. So what I'm saying is, I guess we're all struggling in one way or the other. Some people do it visibly and others do it less visibly. But I feel like everyone should be fighting. Everyone should realize that they are in the end of times, right? And that they should be working towards salvation rather than acting nonchalantly as if everything's okay, everything's going to be okay, this world is not coming to an end, right? So I guess, and I say these things about myself and to myself, and I meditate on them to remind myself that I shouldn't judge others, because in the same way that I might watch a movie that has violence in it, even though I feel like maybe I shouldn't, or I might listen to rap music, which, other people have said that's not very Christian-like. Am I able to truly remove everything that is secular and that I have a little inclination? Because my aunt always said, if you think it's wrong, then it's wrong. Don't do it, right? But then another part of me is like, it's not even it's not a problem. It doesn't make you less of a Christian, or it's not making you do the sin, right? So like, how do you guys think about this thing? Like, how do you feel about what I'm saying, right? In the sight of the fact that we are living in the last days, and we should, in everything that we do, try to become more Christ-like, try to become more perfect, right? Because God says, be ye perfect as our Father is perfect, okay? So yeah, I this is what came to mind as I was reading this, right? So let's move on. So it says, as simplistic as it may sound, this may not always be obvious. The distinctive message entrusted by God to his remnant church and firmly established in the Bible is the foundation of faith. So then this part, I think about, how the fact that we as Adventists, right, specifically Seventh-day Adventists, we claim that we have this message. We have the three angels message, right? And we are the religion that is closest to the Bible that I know of, right? And that's what I've been taught all my life, right? We follow the seventh-day Sabbath. We know about the three angels message. We know about the end of times, the Antichrist. We know who they are. We have these lessons and this understanding. But do we live the life that we should as a people who truly has the message, right? And I don't think we do. And even myself, sometimes, even as I think about these things that I think about, like, what movies that I watch and what kind of songs that I listen to, places that I go, I sanction it. I'm very good at that. But I think I'm still working on the movies, the music, Yeah, like things like that, right? Why you say that? Hi, why you say that we are in the last day? Oh, well, well, we're in the last day because there's a lot of things that are occurring that we know the Bible said would occur, right? Rumors of wars, pestilence, diseases, even to the point where a pastor was speaking the other day, and he was like, the Pope has made a decree about the what is it called? What is it called? What did he say? What did he say about the Sunday law, right? So those are the things, because and that's a mark of the beast, right? According to us, we believe that the Sunday law is what is going to distinguish us from the people who decide that, they're not going to, or they're going to either adhere to it or not adhere to it. And that will separate the people. People of God will decide that they're going to observe the Sunday law and not go to work or do whatever. And then they're going to be persecuted because of it. And that's the mark of the beast. As for the three angels' messages, so in Revelation, it talks about how so they're angel. So when the end of days come, there are going to be a certain amount of angels who have the right, or God will give them the right to open up seals, and Christ is the person who opened up the seal, but they're going to blow the trumpets, and they're going to do all these great awful things, right? And so the three angels message talks about how one, we're supposed to call the people out of Jerusalem, right, where they're to tell them to not to drink of the wine and of the fornication and all this thing, and it's all in Revelation in what it is. And so we're the ones with that kind of message who's going to tell people, listen, God is coming soon. You have to stop doing what you're doing and adhere to the rules and regulations that God has written in your heart, in the Bible, so that you can follow it, right? So this is the whole concept of why we believe as Seventh-day Adventists, we have this message and we proclaim it everywhere, right? We go to the ends of the earth, so to speak, to speak to people who do not know about God, and tell them who God is and what this message is all about. Again, it's all in Revelation. I don't know exactly word for word what it says, and I should, because I think it's in Revelations. Hold on, if I can go to it right now. Okay, so hold on. He says, Jesus made it clear that nobody knows when it is the end of times. He says that he doesn't even know too. Right, so that is true. Christ did say that only the Father knows, but he did give us signs, right? He gave us signs. He says, you will know when the end of the world comes, when these things are happening, because the disciples were curious. They were like, tell us when that's going to come, because the important thing is they wanted to know when he was coming back, and he was going to come back when the end of the world comes. So they're like, when are you coming back? And he's like, I'm coming back when these things happen. And then when these things happen, it's the end of the world. So even though he says no one knows the time or the day, and when he does come, he's going to come as a thief in the night, because no one knows. But he says, I want you to be prepared. I don't want to come to you unawares. I don't want to catch you by surprise. I need you to be watchful. I need you to be paying attention to what's happening around you, right? In the same way, when Christ came, there were signs that would dictate what he would come as, right? The star, or the prophecies before he came were written, and that's why people were, even our day, we're like, why didn't the Jews know that it was him? Because everything was aligned, and we have the three kings who went looking for them because they were astrologists, right? They weren't kings; they were astrologists. They were reading the signs and the prophecy, and they knew that he would be born in Bethlehem, and they went to find him because of those signs. So in the same way, in his second return, there are also going to be signs as well, because he does not want to take us unawares. He says that he will not do anything without letting his children know first. You know the story of Abraham, how before God went to burn Sodom and Gomorrah, he went to Abraham. He said, how can I keep this thing from you? Because you're my friend, right? And he does the same thing with you and I. We are his friends, and he says he will not keep from us what he plans to do. So he plans to burn this whole earth with fire and brimstone. And so because he's our friend, he's like, I'm not gonna let that happen and not give you a warning sign, like, hand, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, beware, go hide, right? And he did that each time he was about to destroy Jerusalem. He said, my children will know. None of them will die because I would have them leave first. So it's the same thing that is going to happen at the end of times, when before the fire and brimstones fall down on us, we would have already seen the signs coming, and we would have already removed ourselves to the mountains, and we would have been warned. We would be watchful. And I've mentioned this before. I say that Corona is a sign for me to show us, that God is able. When he says that he can send a curse, send a plague over the whole world, and it will destroy 1/3 of the world, right? It is possible, right? We see that because of Corona. This is a sign. This shows us that I mean what I say. Okay, so beware and be watchful, be mindful, be on your guard. So yes, we don't know the time exactly, but we know approximately when it may come. Right? So let's go back to our lesson that we were covering. Thank you for your questions and for allowing me to explain a little further. Okay. And so then it continues and says, these followers of Jesus at the end of time must be taught from the Bible how God raised up the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They should be led to understand their special identity as part of a prophetic movement with a rich history and a divine mission and message. So this is exactly what we're talking about right now. Like, as a Seventh-day Adventist, right, I know the things that I'm telling you because I learned them. I went to church, I learned through sermons, through Bible study, through Sabbath school, right? And I'm able to share with you and tell you, right? First of all, okay, how does the Seventh-day Adventist religion come about, right? That is a huge study right there, okay? And so the way we came about, they say, is there was a pastor, Miller was his name, who received the message about, God is coming, and he was in the Bible. He was reading it. And as he's reading and he's trying to understand, he's like, oh my gosh, I see these things and I see these signs and I understand this. And what does it all mean? So in his interpretation, he believed that according to his calculation, that in 1844 that Christ would come. See, now he made a mistake because God, as Mr. Josephus said, God never gave us the time or the date or the hour, nothing like that, right? He just gave us an approximation and he gave us signs of what we can look for, right? And so he was looking at the signs. He said, okay, well, this is happening and this is happening. So this means God is going to come at this time. But he was wrong. God wasn't going to come to earth at this time. What that meant was God was going to move from the holy place to the most holy place in heaven, because when God was walking with Moses, he instructed Moses on how to make a sanctuary that looks exactly as the one in heaven, right? And he told him like we're gonna do exactly. He gave him the dimensions of where things go, whatever, and they represented whatever happened in heaven. So when Christ was crucified, he was, it was an example of a sacrifice that's done in the holy place or the outer courts or whatever it was that happened. But anyway, so in the study, the guy was like, okay, so God is now moving from the holy place to the most holy place. That's what that 1844 message that he found out meant, but he didn't know it to mean that. He thought it meant that Christ was coming to earth. Anyway, all these people decided that, oh my gosh, God is coming soon. He's coming now. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to sell all these things, right? And he was like, we got to get these things done. And then God is coming soon, all of that. Well, it was a great disappointment. Everyone was like, what? They came, God didn't show up. It was like so sad, right? And from that, but with all of the studies that he did, it was like the basis of our religion, right? A lot of people got so discouraged. They gave up because they lost their money. They lost their hope. They lost their lives even, some of them, right? But other people who were watching was like, well, let's go back and study some more. We were wrong, but we must have miscalculated. So they went back and did further study, and they realized what I'm telling you, that it's not about him coming to earth, but it's about him moving into the Most High, which meant it's like he's going to start to intercede for us, right? And he was going to start to scrutinize, the faithful, you and I, right? Our judgment was starting to begin, right? So that was the meaning of that. And then with that new knowledge now, different people were given more information and more enlightenment until we got to Ellen White, who then was given the message of the Sabbath. So this is where the Seventh-day Adventist religion came from. It came from a deep study of what the word is saying and what it meant and the symbols and diagram or whatever the Bible was talking about. That some men, listen, God anointed them with the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding to comprehend it, okay? But now, since we have this information, since we know that God moved from the holy place to the most holy place, and after that, he's going to come soon. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. And this whole message about, what era are we in? Are we in the last days? The whole idea with the golden head and the bronze chest and the silver legs and all of this and the iron and clay feet, like, people learned what that meant, and now they can explain it. So it is our mission, because we have this much knowledge, to go and share it, right? I am not a scholar by no means, but I am a very good listener and I have very good retention. So a lot of things that I say is because I have heard it and I can recite it a little bit, but I'm not very great. So let's see so Josephus says, Jesus made it clear that nobody knows when is the end of time. He says that he does not even know too. And he says, I agree that he will give us signs. Many Christians say that in the 90s and that he was coming back. Somebody said, hold on, if I can, this is something, okay. Somebody said, Brother Campen. Yeah, Campden, I think his name was, whatever. Yes, he did say so. I remember that he declared that a certain specific day, but you're not supposed to signal a day, a week, a month, a year at all. Every time someone does that, they tend to be wrong. And I'm sure God's going to continue to make them wrong because he said not to do it, right? But again, that does not mean that we're not going to observe, right, the times and see, is he nearing? He's very much closer than he was before. But remember, right, the apostles too thought that he was going to come in their time. And then in the 1800s, or the 1500s, the 1800s, the 20s, right, everyone feels like he's closer, but that just means he's that much closer. Who knows? Maybe it's in 10 years. Maybe it's in 30 years. I don't know. You don't know. It's not our place to say when he's coming. It's our place to tell people to prepare. Every day is your preparedness, right? Because the thing is, if you die today, he came for you, because there's nothing else you can do after your death. Right? So I don't know if I go out in the street, if I'm not going to get hit by a car. I don't know if I'm not going to have some kind of illness. And I don't know if I'm not going to, have a freak accident. I don't know what's going to happen to me the next day. So every day for me could have been my last day, okay? He would have come for me if I died that day. So you should act as if you don't know when he is coming, but you live every day to the fullest, with the idea that if I die today, where will I go? Will I go to heaven? Or will I go to hell? Right? We know that it's not as you close your eyes, you go to heaven or you go to hell, because we don't believe in that as Adventists. We believe that your soul goes someplace to be at rest, to be sleeping, right? And then when Christ comes, he awakes you and he sends you to where you are deserving of being, right? But definitely, then I have Daniel, who says, I would like to know about this. Inbox me to show that you really want to teach me. I'm ready for this. Okay, so the thing is, I cannot teach you, sir. I can only share what I know. I can, again, I said, I'm not that versed in all of this information, okay? I will always direct you to someone who can. So I can definitely have you connect with a pastor and an elder if you want Bible study. I don't do personal Bible studies with anyone. That's not my thing. I do general, open, public Bible studies. Okay. I don't do private. It's just not my thing. I don't do that. But again, I can get you to someone and with someone who can, and who's more able to do that than myself. So yeah, so if you're definitely interested, I am going to send someone your way so that you can, get the information that you do want and need, because it's important. We don't know. We must be ready. That's right. We do not know. We do not know when it is, but every single day, you have to prepare. You have to make ready, right? The example that I always use is the man on the cross next to Christ, right? That day was his last day. He hadn't baptized. He hadn't lived a good life, right? But then he called out to God and he says, God, please remember me. And God said, today I tell you Today I tell you, you will be in the kingdom of God with me, which means he was saved, right? So any day can be our day. And any day you can make that choice and that decision. You know what? I want to take God as my personal savior. I want to learn more. Like this gentleman, Mr. Maya Daniels, he wants to learn more. Maybe not directly from Nicolette, all right? Because I don't know as much as I would say that a lot of people know much more than I do, okay? So I will definitely direct you to someone who can help you much more than I can, okay? So let's move on. The next one says, in an age when many are skeptical of organizations and establishments, it is especially important to know the primary mission of the organization you choose to be a part of, as well as how it is structured and to what end. The Adventist Church is more than a local church or a global organization. In many ways, it's pioneered the local or the global organization where the local impacts the global and so where the local impacts the global and the global has a reciprocal effect on the local. Okay, so it's important that you know your faith, right? And that's any religion. It's like, a lot of people, we spoke about this before, they're brought up in a faith. Their mom and their dad or their loved one or their spouse introduces them to a faith, and they attend church day by day, not truly grasping why they're there, what are they being taught, and to truly understand it, right? Like, I have a lot of young people in my church. I do Sabbath school for them. And I do Bible study as well for them. And they ask me a lot of great questions. And I wonder, if no one was there to answer those questions, where would they be? So you have to ask questions. You have to understand what your religion is about. What is it teaching you? Because you just might be in a religion that is teaching you falsities, and you're not even aware because you don't understand and you didn't ask questions, right? So I was Catholic at one time. That's the correct way to say it. So I was Catholic, and I remember when I had to study for communion, in order to take communion, I took communion at the age of 16. And you usually take communion around, let's say, maybe 12-ish, 10-ish, 9-ish. I don't remember. But I remember going to Sunday school. But the thing was, when I grew up, my dad wasn't as devout. He became more devout as I became older. But my aunt was always a devout Christian, always doing devotion, always singing, always at church, always doing these things. And very much different from the Catholic Church, they remained after church for fellowship and programs and all of that, right? So I had more knowledge about the Seventh-day Adventist religion than I did about the Catholic religion, because my aunt would do devotion, and if she would do Sabbath school, and I would learn what the Bible had to say, and I would understand, and I would see what my aunt does, right? Whereas my dad, the only thing we would do was he would recite the rosary. But even then, it was, again, later on in my life that I saw him do that. And I remember when I started doing the whole communion thing, I would listen to what they were saying, and I would try to compare it to what I learned with my aunt. And I was like, but this is so different. So my aunt would tell me that you should not worship other images, right? Or images before God. And then, for Catholic Church, they would tell you that you can kneel or pray to saints. And my aunt would say that Christ himself said, you cannot get anything, you cannot pray about anything or for anything through anyone but me. But then the Catholic Church would say, you can pray to this saint or Mary, who will then pray to Jesus, who will then go to God. And I'm like, wait a second, that's not what I'm being taught. So I learned so many things that were opposite and different. And so then I was super confused. And I remember when the day came for me to actually go in front of that place and be, communioned, right? And I had already bought my pretty white dress, and I had my hair done and everything. And then my dad was like, okay, and my little sister was going to do it at the same time, and she was doing it at the right time. And we all had gone together, my little brother, my little sister, and I. But when the time came, I just couldn't do it because it just seemed so wrong and so opposite. And I'm like, it made more sense what my aunt was saying. And I didn't want to do it, but I was too afraid to tell my dad that I didn't want to, because that's my dad. And he was very strict and mean sometimes when he wanted to be, as parents can be when they're angry. So then, rather than tell him, Papi, I don't want to, I said, Papi, I'm confused. He said, confused? What are you confused about? What is there to be confused about? And I couldn't tell him. It's just that I don't agree. That's not what I was taught. That's not what I learned. That's not what I believe. That's not what I understand. Because see, in my mind, certain things made sense. I was already 17 when I started reading these things. So when God said, when Christ said with his own mouth, you should not pray to anyone but me. You cannot have any answers of prayers through anyone but me. And then a man says, because I couldn't find it anywhere else, that somebody else said, or God said, that you could pray to saints. Whose word am I going to take? Jesus or yours? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I think I'm better off listen to Jesus because he's a God and you human. So, like, you know, and it was just, I was, long story short, a couple of weeks after my dad berated me and started saying that, oh, you don't want it because your aunt treat you so well. You like your aunt more than me. All that stuff, y'all. So I was like, fine, I'll just take communion. Take me. And so I got communion, but my heart was not in it. My mind was not in it. I did not want to. I only did out of fear. Okay. And I lived there, right? And I didn't know that I had the choice to say no. Anyway, so when I got to college now, I was sent away and I couldn't come back because of some other issues. And then I was like, you know, and this is my testimony. So I said to God, God, my heart is calling me into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I feel like everything they say is true and right. But all my life, not all my life, but a lot of what my dad was saying, you know, he made me feel bad or that I was condemned, you know, like you could get excommunicated if you weren't Catholic, and I was already baptized as a Catholic. So then if I get out excommunicated, like that means I'm going to hell. Like, what do I do? So I went to church the first Sunday that I was in college, and then I said the next Saturday, I would try to attend an Adventist church, and I didn't know of any Adventist churches around the school. But during the week, I met this young lady. Her name was Bea. And Bea had come to school 3 weeks or so before I did, and she was already on campus. So she was already familiar, and she was Seventh-day Adventist, and she was such a nice girl, and she was so funny, and I loved her spirit. And then she was like, hey, you want to come to church with me? I was like, okay, what church do you go to? Because I'm Catholic. She's like, well, I'm Seventh-day. I was like, what? My aunt is Seventh-day, and I wanted to go to Seventh-day church, but I didn't know where there was one around here. She's like, yeah, you come with me. So I went to church with her the Saturday. So now the next week came around, and I was like, okay, God, this is what we're going to do. I want to be Seventh-day Adventist, but I know there's this choice of being Catholic as well. I want to know that you're calling me to be a Seventh-day Adventist. I want to know and be convinced that you have asked me to be here. Because my dad said, oh, I'm being Seventh-day Adventist because I love my aunt. And I did love my aunt. She was the best person in my life. And she saved me from a childhood that was a little bit troublesome because of my stepmother. And the lack of love and all of that. So I was like, I don't want to make the choice because of her. I want to make the choice because you called me. And you guys, I kid you not, I did the prayer and I said, this is how I'm going to know. I'm going to open this Bible, and whatever my eyes land on in the Bible will be your answer to my prayer. I want to know that you're calling me. And you guys, I kid you not, I opened the Bible, and when I read, it said that Samuel heard a voice calling him, and he thought it was Eli, and he said, yes, I'm coming. And then that to me was the answer. God, he called Samuel into, because that was that moment was when God, was going to give him his mission, his commission that he really selected. He was working on him, and he was in the faith, but he wasn't really ordained or called yet, right? So then that to me told me that God was calling me into the Seventh-day Adventist religion. So I am convinced of where I am, and no man chose this for me, and I know what I believe in, right? My aunt did introduce me to Seventh-day Adventist Church, but God called me to remain. Right? So this here is I tell you the story because when it talks about being skeptical and not knowing who you are and where you are and why you're there. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist and I know why I'm here. I understand my faith and my religion, and there's a lot in my religion that many do not appreciate, but that's their concern, not mine. I love my faith. I love my religion. I love the don'ts. As a matter of fact, when I had a conversation with my dad, I think I was 28 or 29, and he was still at me for being a Seventh-day Adventist. I said, Papi, if I was not Seventh-day, it would not be good for me. Because the temperament that I have, my religion goes along with it. I love to feel special, to feel different, to feel apart, to feel unique. I had always prayed for that. Right? That was one of the prayers that I had when I was 8 years old. God, I want you to make me special. I want to feel special. And our faith tells us, the Bible tells us, I call you to be a peculiar people. I call you out of dark into his marvelous light. Right? I want you to be unique, special. You're different. So that to me speaks to who I am, who I want to be. So I could not be anything else. I cannot do what others do. I cannot. And it's so funny because there's a lot of people my age who look at me and they're like, I'm like, listen, I enjoy this. I love being unique. I love being different. I love dressing differently. I love speaking differently. I achieve because I desire, to do things differently. And when God says, I have created you unique, I want you to be an example. I want you to be a light. I want you to be the salt of the earth. I want you to draw people to me because you're unique. That's my cup of tea. So I had to tell my dad, I said, Dad, this is my place. I couldn't be Catholic. Like, y'all do everything, anything, anywhere. Like, I can't. You wear any clothes you want to church, jeans, skirts, pants. I can't do that. I can't. You understand? Like, you could drink today, go to church tomorrow. Like, oh, God takes you as you are. I'm not that kind of Christian. Y'all know I'm not that kind of Christian. See, I got to have a particular way about me. My demeanor, my character, everything has to be unique. Seventh-day Adventism does that for me. So that's why I enjoy it. I love it. The don'ts, I'm like, okay, how do I perfect this? Don't do that. Okay, what do I do to help me not to do that? How do I stand out? That's Nicolette, okay? It could be wrong, but that's just me, So just no religion should make the claim that they are closer to the truth or better than others. Only Jesus is the way. Hold on. Let's see. Only Jesus is the way and the truth. I am very leery of religious faith making those claims. Mormons say they are closer to the faith. Jehovah's Witnesses says the same thing. Jesus is the way. Jesus is our Savior. Religion is man-made. Jesus will not come for the religions. I agree with that. Totally agree. In a sense that religion is man-made because people interpret the Bible a certain way and they say, this is the way that you should do it and this is the way that you should do it. But I believe that the Bible is not man-made. It is written by God. It is inspired by God, written by man. So, and if the Bible says something, but another religion is doing something else, then I don't think there's anything wrong with me if I choose to go to the religion that I feel is doing what God is asking us to do, right? Because guess what? You know what? Voodooism is also a religion created by man. And they think they're right as well. Satanism is a religion, right? So they don't believe in God. That's a religion. So I understand that religion is created by man. But of the religions that are Christ-centered, and then of the religions that are God-centered, I don't think, obviously, we can separate the ones that don't believe in God and the ones that don't believe in Jesus, right? We can separate those, right? So we can say, we know all religion is perceptions and what people feel like, their inclination, desires that they want. We know that, okay? So, and that's why we're like, okay, there's Satanism, that's a religion. There's Voodooism, that's a religion, but that's not of Christ, that's not of God. So we get that, right? But of the Muslims, they believe in Allah, and Allah is a God, but they think Jesus is a prophet. See, I believe that Christ is God. See, Jehovah's Witness, they believe that Jesus is a lesser God, right? He wasn't God, he was a child, or whatever they believe, right? So it is my choice. It is my choice. I have the right to choose what religion I feel is according to the Bible that I read. So I read the King James Version. And if any religion does not go according to what I read, then I don't choose that religion. And if I feel that there is a truth, right? I mean, it's either you can kill or you can't kill, right? It's like, it's either stealing is wrong or stealing is right. It's like there are certain things that are black and white, but there are certain things that are in the gray. Let's just admit it. There, if someone comes and attacks me and tries to rape me, and in my defense, I kill him. I did not intend to kill him, but I was trying to prevent myself from getting raped or murdered. And I ended up killing them. In the court of law, outside of religion, if I can prove through camera, through pictures, through notes or whatever, that I did not commit this crime because I intended to harm, but it was in self-defense, I will not receive the same judgment as someone who premeditated the murder, right? And I'm saying this to tell you that even every rule, everything in the Bible, it's a certain view, a certain perception, a certain way a person puts it, okay? And depending on who's defending it or what they're saying, the person can say one thing and another person can refute it and put it altogether different, right? Like, for example, we have the woman, there's so many examples of females who are put in a position where their abusers and attackers are raping them and trafficking them, and they kill that person, and they're still put in jail because they murdered. And so it's that person's perception and how they're defended. So a thing can be wrong or it can be right, depending on how a person perceives it, how they see it. So it's according to my perception. If I feel like I read this and in my understanding it's wrong, you cannot tell me it's right. You cannot make me choose one way or the other. So if you understand it a certain way and you're like, well, I don't like religions that say they're the truth, that's fine. But I understand faith and religion a certain way. And if I read the Bible and it says one thing and someone else is doing something different, I don't want to follow that person. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. You understand? So I understand what you're saying. And that's why I don't condemn and bash religions. I speak facts, right? I read the Bible. And then I see what other people do. In my view, in my understanding, where I am, I feel that if I was to follow it to the letter, that what they teach is closest to what the Bible is saying. In my understanding, then again, another person might read it and not see it the way that I do. And they have every right to that. God will hear and understand their heart and their minds according to what they understand. Okay? But I find that there are people, and I have to turn on the AC, guys. I was getting hot. So I find that there are certain people who decide that, I want to have another wife because, I'm married too young and she doesn't please me anymore, so I'm going to get divorced. Even though the Bible says do not divorce. But because they're doing something, they want to justify what they're doing. So I don't, and I think God will see that. If you truly do not know and you do not understand, that's one thing. But if you're doing it because you want to, because that's what you feel like doing, and you're justifying your own actions, that to me is different. Okay, so definitely I see your point where, you know, some people will justify a faith and a religion, and they're like, mine is better than yours. But then when you look at them, like, you're not acting any differently and any better than anybody, right? It's about the religion. For me, it's not about the religion, because I live my religion. I live my faith. I understand what God has asked me to do in his word, and I do the best that I can to live it, whether I like it or not. Okay? Do I want to be single? Do I want to be a virgin? Do I not want to enjoy sex? Do I not want to have a husband and a boyfriend and a suitor and something? No, of course I do, because I am a human being, female, with all the organs that work like everyone else. But I cannot do the wrong thing because God said no. Okay? I've told you in the past, I actually enjoy the smell of a cigarette. I don't know, there's this particular brand that when I smell it, I'm like, interesting, right? But would I go smoke because I like that smell? No. Okay, when I was younger, I actually preferred my skirts to be above my knees. That was a preference of mine then. But as I got older, modesty took over, and now I no longer prefer it. So there are certain things that I might have an inclination towards and a desire to do, but because it's wrong, I don't do it. And that's what I feel like a lot of people, they use their religion to justify what they're doing. Muslims do that, not the good ones, but the ones who kill others, right? Like, there will be a time where, and there was a time where God, you know, told the Israelites, you know, to smite them and to destroy them or whatever. Listen, I don't know what they're hearing, but that to me is between them and God. Okay, I'm not gonna say their religion is worse or bad, because listen, God knows what he told them, and they know what they're doing when it's their own greed. Because I haven't seen anything that they do benefit anybody but themselves. Okay? I haven't seen it. All right? Anyway, so we're going to move on. The last part says, in an age when many are skeptical of organizations and establishments, it is especially important to know the primary mission of the organization you choose to be a part of, as well as how it is instructed and to what end. The Adventist Church is much more than a local church or a global organization. In many ways, it's, I already read that. The Adventist Church has 4 levels with 4 different jurisdictions. It differs from traditional I can't say it, structures in a way that reflects this locality. I've never even heard that word, y'all. Locality. Local church, a body. So these are the 4 that it has. So the first one says local church, a body of individual members or believers that has authority over membership and local missions, often reassesses leadership every 1 to 2 years. Okay, so the local church is where you and I know best. That's where we attend, right? So the individual believers like you and I that have authority over membership and local missions. So that's like our crusades, that's our mission trips. Like, we know what's happening with our local church more directly than the next one says local conference, a body of local churches within a particular area that has authority over tithe and the pastors, often reassesses leadership every 2 to 3 years. So the way this is just telling you how our church works. So we have the local church that I attend, that you attend, right, that is immediate to us. And then we have local conferences, which is a group of churches according to whatever region and area they're located. So they kind of work together, and it says it deals with the different pastors and the tithe. So whatever tithe they collect is for that region, for the pastors there, right? And whenever the leadership has to be changed, they change it every 2, 3, I think even 4 years, sometimes even 6 years. I don't know, the 2 to 3. I've seen pastors who are at that church for 6 years because of some kind of work that's happening, and they don't want to change the pastor right away, whatever. And then there's a union conference. It's a body of local conferences within a particular area that has authority over regional policies and regional missions, often reassess leadership every 5 years. So you have the local churches, then you have the local conferences, and then you have the local, you have the local church, then you have the local conference, and then you have the local union. So the conference oversees the local churches, and the union oversees the conferences in the different regions. So I'm in the Northeastern Conference. There is the Greater New York Conference. There's an Allegheny Conference, right? So those conferences are under the union. I'm in, what union am I under? I forgot. I know there's an Atlantic Union. I think I'm in the Atlantic Union, right? I think, right? Is the Northeastern Conference under the Atlantic Union, people? I don't know. But I need to know those things better. But the thing is, they oversee them so that it's a structure, right? And then the last one is General Conference, the complete body of union conferences that has authority over church and mission, church governance, regionalized into various divisions for further efficacy. So now the General Conference oversees everything in the whole world, right? So and this is like the conference that meets every 5 years, where like when they're going to add a whole new what is it called, our beliefs. Like we had 27 fundamental beliefs, right? As a matter of fact, I'm sure, I don't remember how it started, how many we had in the very, 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 very beginning, but I know over the years they've added a few, and the reason why is because they had to like demarcate what it is we believe in, because there are so many religions. And then kind of Josephus was saying with what he was saying, because there's so many religions and they believe in so many similar things, and then sometimes it's not clear what one believes over another one, or if we believe the same thing that they do, that we have to be like, okay, this is what we believe in, this is what we believe in, and this is how we differ from other religions, right? And I think I do see, that's why I say I do see Josephus' point about like there's a lot of emphasis that's put on how we're different rather than how we're similar. But I think there must be a difference, because we have to realize that in the end of time, they're going to try to put all the religions together, and they're going to single out the religions that decide to be different. And that's where our problem is going to start. See, we're the only religion that are so strict in certain things that we cannot adhere and abide by certain things, right? Like most religions do things on Sundays and they don't care. Like even people who say they're Sabbath keepers and it's a Sunday, they don't really observe the Sabbath, do they? Like when I observed Sunday, I still went shopping. I did grocery shopping. We went to events. I did like after school Sunday programs, and studied and did and worked and tired myself and did a lot of laborious work, where God said the Sabbath is to rest in. He labored 6 days and he rested, and he wants you to give him that day completely, right? So that makes us totally different, right, from the other religions. And so that's why it's important to me to make the distinction so that you know, listen, this faith, they say this, but they're not really following it the way that God asks for it to be followed. And knowing that in the end of time, they're going to use this difference against us. And the Antichrist, right, the person who's called the Antichrist, is going to use that difference to say, see them right there? They're the reason why we're feeling this and doing this, and this is happening to us. And it's already starting to be said now. Like they're saying, like it's because we're not, worshiping God the way we're supposed to. That's why the pandemic happened. That's why Corona happened. And they want to make like a special day of prayer. And they're going to most probably make it Sunday. What about us? We worship on a Saturday. We go to work on Sundays, because we worship on Saturdays. So what they're going to do is they're going to focus on people like us who are going to choose not to worship on Sunday, and they're going to say we're the reason why these things are happening in the world around us. And so they're going to signal us out and start to persecute us, right? And that is because of a distinction. Okay, it is because we are different. So yes, I believe that there must be a distinction. There must be a separation, in the same way that when I am religious, you just know, right? You can see, whereas a person who's semi-religious, right? When you look at them, you wonder, what's their faith? Like people have looked at me and have asked me, are you Seventh Day? And I'm like, well, how'd you know that? Because there's a lot of religions out there. Why choose that one? And one of the things that they would say to me is the way that I dress modestly, my natural hair, and the fact that I don't wear jewelry. I actually have a hole. I have a hole in my ear, but I don't wear jewelry. And they're like, it's because you don't wear jewelry. It's because you're natural. And mostly they've seen me in skirts, right? So it's like, distinctions to me are great. Being signaled out is a great thing, but when you're signaled out to be hurt, that's something different. But you have to be okay with that, right? Because they're signaling you out the way they singled out our Savior, okay? He was not like everyone. He was of a particular religion. He was Jewish. It wasn't because the Jewish people were doing things that were wrong that he decided, I'm not going to be Jewish anymore because these hypocrites and these Pharisees are doing it all wrong, so I am no longer going to be called a Jew. That's not what he did. He called them out on it. And then he said, this is the real way to be a Jew. This is what Judaism really means. So yes, I know that there are Seventh-day Adventists that are doing things wrong. There are people that are bashing others and are not following the right way. Yeah, I do know that, but that doesn't make me any less Seventh-day Adventist. They're wrong, not me. Okay, I'm very proud of where I am and who I am and all of that. And the way my church functions, it's one of the well-organized systems out there, organizations out there, right? We are right after the Catholics, right? Catholic churches are very well organized, we know that. And we're just like them in that respect, or, you know, maybe similar, maybe they're better because they're, you know, they've been here longer. But organization is our thing, okay? God is an organized God, right? He's a disciplined God. You can't just do everything and anything and just be like, I'm going to heaven. Nah, it doesn't work like that, okay? Anyway, so that was our lesson here. And I thank you. So Josephine said also, thank you. I respect your view. God says, if you're looking for him, you will find him. Definitely, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I respect other people's faith as well, because I know, and I do not preach Seventh-day Adventists will be saved. Catholics will be saved, will not be saved, or Judaism will be saved, or will not. And even with the Jewish, God, listen, Christ said to the Jews, right? I leave your house vacant because you rejected me. I will reject you. He said that in the beginning, right? And then Paul comes and says, why do you think that God will take you who's grafted in and leave those who were of the stem, right? Meaning, he's going to accept Jews in the same way that he accepts pagans. Like, we actually are of the Gentile culture. We come from non-Jewish people, right? If he accepts us, he'll accept them. If he accepted them who rejected him, why would he not accept Catholics and Jewish and Baptists and Pentecostals, whatever? I feel like if you are after the truth, like Josephine says, you will find it. God will enlighten you. He will help you to understand and see where you are, if it's right for you, if it's wrong for you. And believe me, there are a lot of people who are of a certain faith who are not abiding by that faith. They're not doing even what that religion asks them to do, okay? There are Catholics who are horrible Catholics. They do not do any, what's that called? The rosary. They don't do that. They don't go to church. They go to church, what do they say? For weddings, for funerals, and Christmas. You gonna go to church 3 times a year and you call yourself Catholic? Come on now. Something wrong with you, okay? And it's the same thing with Baptists, right? Like, you call yourself a Baptist, but you're not really a Baptist. You call yourself a Pentecostal, but you're not really a Pentecostal, okay? So, like, anyone from any religion can be super bad, doing it all wrong, and anyone from any religion could be super good and doing it all right, okay? To the best of their knowledge, to the best of their understanding. And God says that he will judge you by what you know, okay? Obviously, if you're doing it all wrong, like, you can't go to heaven, sorry, because you're wrong, you know. But if you're trying to do your best and you're adhering to what you know and what you learn, and you're obeying his commandments, the 10 commandments, the 2 commandments, forget the 10, y'all, the 2 commandments, love God and love thy neighbor as yourself. Like, how could you go wrong with that? How can you go wrong with that? Okay, so let us think of the religion that we're in. Understand it. Like, why are you of that faith? Why did you choose that? Did you choose it because someone told you? Or did you choose it because you wanted to? And what are you doing there? Are you truly abiding by the rules and regulations of that faith? Are you adhering to the rules and regulations that were set before you when you got baptized or communion or whatever? Are you doing what's right? And in that, are you sharing that message? Whatever light that you have, are you sharing it? I am. Are you? Okay, and I think those who share and who have questions, and it's okay that we might disagree, that's fine, and we may agree on other terms, and that's also fine, right? But the thing is, God looks at both of our hearts, yours and mine, and he deems where we stand. I can tell you I'm a fervent and great Seventh-day Adventist. but I could be lying because of my heart and my mind might be in the wrong place. But he knows where I stand, okay? And I can't tell you where you stand either, whether I see you or not. Only God knows where we stand. So let us be found in the right position, right? Let us be found serving God and trying our best to be saved. And as we do that, bringing others along, okay? Thank you guys for listening and watching. Sorry for the AC. I got super hot. You know, it's like, it's not winter yet. Okay, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye.